is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
3 straight years, 3 straight first-round draft picks, and the Oklahoma City Thunder selected 3 straight league MVPs. In the year 2007, the Oklahoma City Thunder selected with the 2nd overall pick, Kevin Durant. The next year, in 2008, with the 4th overall pick, they selected Russell Westbrook. And the year after that, in 2009, they selected with the 3rd overall pick, James Harden, who last night won MVP of the NBA. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. Give me a call, 888-729-3776. Let's welcome in now a guy who covers the Thunder for us, ESPN NBA writer Royce Young on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. You know, Royce, if I asked you, did the Thunder know what they had when they had Harden and Westbrook and Durant together? The answer is quite obviously no, or they wouldn't have traded away Harden. But what did they think they had when they had those guys together?
Well, they clearly thought they had something special between the three of them. And, I don't think that the Thunder, like you said, they clearly underestimated James Harden's potential to a degree. And I think a lot of people were guilty of that. Well, if you go back to the time, and look, we're in 2018 now, 6 years after the trade happened, and we all have the great gift of hindsight to be able to see the player that James Harden became. But there were a lot of questions, and you can go read story after story of people wondering, is James Harden capable of being an alpha? Can he take the reins of a team? And I think the Thunder had kind of the same type of questions. Harden won Sixth Man of the Year that year, and there was a lot of talk, should he be starting at that point? And it's kind of forgotten, but there was an injury. Thabo Sefolosha was their starting shooting guard, and Scott Brooks put Harden into the starting lineup for 3 games. And it went so poorly, and Harden was so uncomfortable playing alongside Westbrook and Durant as a starter that he went to Scott Brooks and said, I don't want to start anymore. And so I think that there was a lot of this kind of like, how good is Harden really going to be if you take away Westbrook and Durant from him? Clearly, he's a future Hall of Famer. He's a current MVP. So I don't know that you could say that the Thunder are the only ones guilty of underestimating him. They knew he was good. They took him 3rd overall. They were ready to offer him $55 million. They were only $4.5 million short of the max salary that Harden wanted. So it's not like the Thunder, they were going to make him the highest paid bench player in NBA history. So they knew they had a great player, but I don't know that they knew that they needed to commit to the level that they should have because he's now an MVP.
ESPN NBA writer Royce Young here on the Will Cain Show. You're around the team. You're around Sam Presti. You're around all those guys, Russ. How much, regret is there? How much do they look back and go, man, what could have been?
I think one of the things is the Thunder front office and the Thunder themselves kind of pride themselves on the fact that they at least don't ever put on the appearance of looking back in the rearview mirror. They like to think that they are always head down looking forward. But, clearly when they're going to replay this and they go back through it, I don't necessarily think that they what if or regret anything about the Kevin Durant situation. That was out of their hands. They didn't have any control there. They tried to keep the guy that did everything they could do. He decided to leave, and that was his right to do it. Harden, they had control. And not only did they have control over trading him, but he was headed for restricted free agency, not unrestricted free agency, so they had the control to match on any contract offer that he would have gotten. Now, I think when it comes to Sam Presti, and a lot of people like to point the finger at him, right? Well, it's like he's the guy that traded him. Sam Presti's also the guy that drafted him. It's not like Sam Presti raised his hand and said, you know what, I really want to trade James Harden. I just don't want him on my team anymore. It was a mandate. He had to do it. The finances were complicated. The Thunder didn't have much money. They were coming off the move from Seattle. Ownership had just paid a ton of money to move from Seattle to Oklahoma City. There wasn't a whole lot of money in the bank for the Thunder, and paying the kind of bill that they were going to pay to keep Harden was just too much for ownership. So Sam Presti had to do what he had to do.
All right, now do this with me, Royce. I don't think there's a way you can get this answer wrong, and I don't know that we can even do it responsibly, but let's just play for the game for a moment. What if they've been able to do it? What if they've been able to keep all of these 3 guys, 3 potential league MVPs? What would it have turned out like? Do you think that Russ and Harden would have figured out how to play together? Would any of these guys have received or evolved into the full player that he is on his own if they had remained together? Would they be the Warriors of today? What would they look like as a team and as individuals?
I think collectively, Will, I think that they would obviously have had more success. I can't sit here and say that they 100% would have had a title, but if I was guessing, I would think that they would have won a championship. I mean, there was just too much talent not to. Look, when they went to the finals to play the Heat, they didn't even know what they were doing hardly at that point. They were dead last in the league in assists. They were barely running offense. They didn't know what they were doing. They were starting Kendrick Perkins, but they were just so dang good, it didn't matter. I mean, the players were too good. Now, that said, I think individually, and this is kind of what, I did a Sports Center essay for this morning shows, and I think individually, those guys would have never reached this level. I think Durant would be the only one that would have an MVP right now if they all three stayed together. And I think that, you can see it. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook both took leaps after Harden left. Harden, obviously, with air to breathe and now playing down in Houston, he took a massive leap himself. And then Westbrook took this extra leap. He won MVP once Kevin Durant left. Really, all three guys succeeded individually once the other guy left. When Durant won MVP in 2014, it was Westbrook missing half the season coming off an injury. So I think we would have never seen the pure, overwhelming greatness of these three guys individually, but overall as a team, they would have experienced more success. It's kind of comparable, like you said, with the Warriors. I mean, Kevin Durant in some ways is stifled right now to make room for Steph Curry. Steph Curry's kind of stifled himself to make room for Kevin Durant. Klay Thompson, what could he average if he was on his own team? But what does it result in? Maybe one of the greatest dynasties of all time. So
yeah, and the great question,
which one would you rather have?
And the great question, and why it's worked for the Warriors, is because they've managed those egos. And that's the last question, how it would have worked. And would James Harden and Russ and James Harden and Kevin Durant, would they have continued to get along?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think that at some point one of those guys would have had to go. And, not just in terms of the finances. If they could go back and do it all over again, I think the Thunder would pay James Harden, because one of the things that they couldn't anticipate coming was the TV cap spike. That would have relieved a lot of the pressure financially on them, and there's just no way for them to know that would ever happen. They didn't have a crystal ball. They couldn't read the future. But if they could go back and do it, I think that they could have squeezed 4 or 5 years out of them. But I do think at one point, one of those guys was going to say, look, I got to go. And it might have been Harden. Harden, there's been a lot of things that have come out post-Harden trade, and one of the things that we learned was he went to USA Basketball. He made the Olympic team as a sixth man, but he's there with Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, and everybody else, basically feeling like one of the, true peers in the NBA. And they're telling him, Kobe was telling James Harden, hey, man, you're too good. You got to go get your own team. And James Harden, he felt that way. He thought, yeah, I think so too. So I think at some point it would have been too much. I think the curiosity from James Harden would have been like, maybe it wouldn't have happened in 2012, but 2014, 2015, at some point he was going to want to go.
Okay, we're running out of time here. So Cerruti tells me you want to be, and you're perfectly comfortable being potentially embarrassed on national radio, which, join the crowd. I just did it 15 minutes ago. I'll do it again 15 minutes from now for myself. So, all right, here's the question. Name for me, who's your favorite baseball team, Royce?
Chicago Cubs.
Okay. Name for me that was confident, by the way, so I'm thinking he's going to do well.
I love my Cubbies.
Name for me an active baseball player not on the Chicago Cubs.
Oh, Bryce Harper.
Name for me a second, please.
Mike Trout.
Ah, there it is. Second. You know what position he plays, by the way?
You wanted to see how long we went until I said Mike Trout, huh?
Yes, that's the game we're playing today.
That's actually really clever, because I was just having this discussion with somebody about how Mike Trout is like an all-time great, and nobody ever thinks of him. I'm actually surprised myself that I thought of him.
You did. Let me put it this way, Royce. You did way better than almost everybody else we called and asked this question to. You're right. Historic greatness, and not at the top of your mind.
Pujols or something?
Oh, they say Aaron Judge. They say Giancarlo Stanton. Yeah. They say Clayton Kershaw. They say many names. It usually comes about 5, 6, 7 when you think, oh, yeah, Trout.
Yeah.
And I said he played third base.
That's a great social experiment.
All right, man. Great job. Thanks, Royce.
All right, see you, Will.
That's Royce Young, ESPN's NBA writer on The Will Cain Show. It was a joke, but I said it. Right, guys? It was a joke.
Right, yeah. It was so funny.
Job well
best
done.
Deliveries ever.
By James Harden winning NBA MVP. Job well done is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. With quality in parts and know-how, Napa Auto Parts can help you keep your ride running longer, stronger. That's Napa know-how. All right. Let's do this. Let's run through this quiz a little bit quicker. Let's ask several people how many current players they can name. See how long it takes them to get to Mike Trout. That's next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Hi, everyone. Will Cain here. Support for the Will Cain podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, and your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030. Farm Aid is coming to Connecticut. This isn't an advertisement. I'm telling you, I am pumped. Tickets went on sale today. I bought them. I already got my tickets right now. And I came storming into work. Bubba, you ran into me in the quad or whatever we call the courtyard out there.
How made you buy? You got them for all of us or what here? What'd you do? You keep saying tickets. What is that?
I believe I got about 4. So.
Well, there are 4 of us, so.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool.
Thank you. We'll see you then.
What's going to have to happen?
It's like clearing my calendar.
I'm out.
So I was going to say my wife's going, so we're going to have to have like a mud wrestle.
All right, the 4 of us. You 2 and us 2. Perfect.
No, you're telling me you don't want to go to Farm Aid here in Hartford. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is ridiculous.
It is pretty unbelievable.
This is an unbelievable lineup at Farm Aid. September 22nd. You ready? You ready for this, Nuno? This is insane. Willie Nelson, of course. He's the Farm Aid guy. Neil Young. That's why Bubba I should have asked you who that was. I should have tried to embarrass you because, yes, I said Mike Trout played third base. You got me. Jake. John Mellencamp. Dave Matthews. Chris Stapleton. Sturgill Simpson. Casey Musgraves. It just doesn't stop. This is ridiculous.
So John dropped the Cougar?
I guess so. Name a John Mellencamp song, Nuno.
I don't know.
One. Just one.
We'll be here all day. Mike Trout.
Could you name a song off any of these people I just read off? These are 3 of my favorites. Like you put the Will's top 5 favorite artists, you're going to get Willie Nelson, Chris Stapleton, and Sturgill Simpson in there. Right there. Then you add Neil Young and Mellencamp and Matthews. This is going to be ridiculous. We need to do something with the show. Let's see, Srudy, if we can get something going on here. I don't know. A fan experience or a live remote, or hell, get Chris Stapleton to walk through the studio here if he's in the area and play us a little acoustic. Can we do it? Something?
We tweet at all of them and just say, hey, come on the Will Cain show.
Please.
We have T-shirts.
This is your look, man. How many more chances are we down to with Willie? Honestly. We're not, can't buy green bananas on this one. We got to do this while the getting's good.
So the tickets that you bought for us, did you get lawn seats or did you get actual seats?
I don't know. The wife did it, man.
So I'm sure she got actual tickets.
She did not get an extra 2 for Bubba and Srudy.
Well, you just said 4. Who are the other 2?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm going to have
Of course we do. We just established it.
I'm going to pick somebody who doesn't call me out on messing up Mike Trout's position. That's what I'm going to do.
I didn't say anything.
Twitter did that, not us.
See you at Farm Aid.
By the way, tickets go on sale Friday. I'm not even getting paid for this.
So tickets go on sale on Friday, yet you already have tickets?
Well, that's for famous people.
Oh, all right, nice.
People really plugged into Mike Trout. Speaking of that, we called all our buddies, and we wanted to see for how historically great Mike Trout is. If you asked them to name a current baseball player, how long before they get to Mike Trout? So, this is Cerruti's buddy, Shane. You want to do Shane or you want to do Mike? Huh? I think we go with Shane here. No?
Yeah, let's do Shane.
You want to do Shane?
Yeah.
All right. This is Cerruti's buddy, Shane. Big baseball fan, Shane. Please name for me an active baseball player not on your favorite team.
I can go Ryan Seager on the Mariners, but granted, I currently live in Seattle.
That's good. Okay, can you go? Give me a second.
I got King Felix. I could go Zunino, Robbie Cano. Granted, I've been to a couple of games already since I've been out here.
Are the Mariners your favorite team?
No, Tigers are my favorite team.
Okay, Mariners are off the list. No Mariners, no Tigers. Name for me an active baseball player.
Giancarlo Stanton, Pedroia on the Red Sox. Pujols, I think, still plays for the Angels. And then there's the guy with two colored eyes who pitches for the Nationals. What's his name?
We know, old two-color eye guy. Yeah.
He used to pitch for the Tigers. Shoot.
You're knocking this out of the park.
Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer.
Yeah,
there you
right.
Yeah, it throws off all the batters.
You're knocking this. You're knocking this out of the park. Let's narrow this in because you're good at this game. Let's narrow this in. I was just going to pick one of these teams at random. You said Pujols, right?
Yeah.
Can you name anybody else in the Angels?
We got Trout.
There he is! Yeah. You just won the game. How many players did Shane name before he got to Mike Trout? I mean, he named them their whole Mariners team. I think he might have named like 10 guys before he got to Mike Trout. That's illustrating our point. Mike Trout in Ken Griffey Jr., in Babe Ruth, in Willie Mays territory. Mike Trout, not top of mind. Scott from L.A. Is this a different Scott? Was that Scott we were talking to earlier? Is it a different Scott in L.A.?
All right, this is the right Scott. Will, how you doing?
You're not the guy that's calling to say it's about...
that was the worst call I've ever heard. I'm an avid, watcher and listener to your show. And first of all, I want to congratulate you and everybody else on the show. But let me this is why L.A. people... I'm originally from Philly, but we're not going to get into that right now. This is why L.A. people don't know sports. Okay? First of all, Tim Kurkjian is always on ESPN. Always saying that Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. I agree. One more thing is that in L.A., 2/3 of the baseball market doesn't get to 100 games. And the Angels are an afterthought. They come on the news, they talk about the Angels a little bit when Albert Pujols breaks another record. Mike Trout also, another thing with Willie Mays. Mike Trout has been back-to-back All-Star MVPs. First player to do that, Willie Mays. If Mike Trout was with the Yankees or a bigger marketed team, of course, people would start to say, and I think he will in the future, would start to say he is the best baseball player. This is one of the best. You guys are doing an exceptional job. This is one of the best questions. I did this about 2 weeks ago. Mike Trout came in like 10th.
So you're saying the answer to why, though, Scott, is because he plays for the Angels?
Yes, I think the biggest thing, even Bryce Harper is named over Mike Trout because of L.A. is more of a national league because of the Dodgers. And even in L.A. or marketing, the Angels don't get the marketing. They wanted to go by Anaheim Angels, and Major League Baseball made them say Los Angeles Anaheim Los Angeles Angels. Mm-hmm. Eventually, now here's the kicker too. Mike Trout is also from New Jersey. He's an Eagle fan. Now that doesn't come into the equation.
I knew you'd bring this
home.
But
first of all, and I want to say one thing, very important.
Did he play center field?
We all love sports, okay? And by the way, I'm trying to get into soccer because you guys are getting me into it.
Good.
That it is not ESPN. I would bet my life. I don't work for ESPN. You guys do. I don't buy for 1 second of my whole life, and I'm 47, okay, that ESPN is racially motivated. Come on.
Oh, you're talking about the other Scott from Los Angeles.
Yeah, that it was said. And that it is an awful statement. It's false.
Well,
Major League Baseball, the contract was picked up for money, okay? And, it's other sports or whatever. ESPN knows what they're doing, obviously.
I got it. Scott, I got to run. I'm going to get to my commercial break here. I'm already over. I appreciate the call. I think you're right about the fact that it's the Angels. If he plays for the Yankees or Red Sox, I think everybody know about Mike Trout. They might even know what position he played. Tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Surprise a friend or loved one today with a bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. When you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Coming up, why do we only care about certain sports and athletes when it comes to PEDs? Nobody cares about Julian Edelman testing positive. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. It's John Mellencamp, Nuno. That was the one you were asking about. The one you just said, hey, when did he drop the cougar? You know what? Let's just, coming up here, when is this launching? Rich, when's the new show launch?
The show is launching Saturday, but I can't believe he didn't know John Mellencamp.
Yeah, but you know what, Rich? You know what he'd done? What if Wu-Tang comes up, he's going to act like I'm the biggest idiot on the planet. Or if I forget which position Mike Trout plays, they're all going to make fun of me for 3 hours.
Oh,
but if you don't know,
you ever see the videos where the kids are wearing Nirvana shirts, but they don't realize when Nirvana's playing in the background?
No, I haven't seen that.
There's a bunch of videos of because Target will sell those graphic tees of classic rock bands and 90s rock bands. It's a bunch of kids wearing the shirts, not knowing what the music is. That's what just happened here.
It's like wearing Che Guevara shirts and asking who that is on your shirt. I don't know. It's just cool. It's not cool, by the way. Who I'm talking to is the co-host of the newest ESPN radio show. It's Saturdays, 2 p.m., right, Rich?
Noon Eastern on Saturday and noon Eastern on Sunday.
They're mad at me because you didn't put it on my screen. I can't have these things.
What do you mean it's not? I'm looking right at it.
It doesn't. Oh, there on the second line. Oh, yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays.
See that? Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays, noon to 4.
It's Rich Davis, co-host of Covino and Rich on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Rich, let's just drop you into all the conversations we've got going on the show today. First of all, I heard that you heard we were talking about this, so I can't really put the quiz to you. But Mike Trout, right now, best baseball player in the game, in the historic comparisons at this point, but not at the top of seemingly anybody's mind. You live in L.A. Explain this to me. Why does everybody forget about Mike Trout?
There's something so unexciting about Mike Trout. I'm with you. When I heard you talking about this, it's a fantastic conversation because he's the best unknown player in any of the four major sports or anything right now. No one knows who this guy is. People will name probably a guy like David Wright, who hasn't played in years, before they'll name Mike Trout. People will bring up Chris Davis on the Orioles, who's probably the worst, having the worst year of all time, before they bring up Mike Trout. It's amazing how this guy's so under the radar.
Yeah, it really is, and I don't know what the explanation is. Is it the Angels are a small market team? Is it because we played that game one time? You guys remember we play Kawhi Leonard's voice, play somebody else's voice. We couldn't identify it. I guarantee we'd fail with Mike Trout. You play his voice, I'm not going to get it.
Without a doubt, man. I grew up on the East Coast, so I'm a sad Mets fan. So you know how Mets fans play second fiddle to all the Yankees fans, and I'm bragging about 27 rings and all that. Out here, since I moved to Los Angeles, you don't see anyone rocking any Angels hat or shirt or anything. It's a Dodger town. It's sort of like how the Yankees take over the Mets in New York. So, I mean, even when Pujols came out here, I just feel like he's sort of, I think his reputation, not only did his play go down, but don't you feel like his star went down as an Angel? I don't know.
Well, but it did coincide with his play, so that's a hard one.
That is true.
That's a hard one to parse.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to get into this a little bit later in the show, but I'd love to get your feedback on it right now. So I don't think anybody cares, Rich. I don't think anybody cares that Julian Edelman tested positive for a PED. Even if we can't name the substance, we don't know what it is. We assume at this point the NFL is telling us that the sample was dirty. But I don't think anybody cares. And we were talking about this. This was off the show. This was in the commercial breaks, I believe. Outside of the name Tom Brady, I'm not sure anybody would care about any NFL player testing positive for PEDs. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I totally agree with you, by the way. I think that there's also a way to play it, right? Covino's a big Yankees fan, and he always loves to point out how Andy Pettitte sort of got away with it too, where no one really was hard on Pettitte when he tested. And Bartolo Colon's a guy that's so lovable and not athletic looking that he got the free pass. I think it's not just in the NFL. I think there's certain people that get a free pass, and you can't explain it. I agree. I don't think Edelman, anyone's going to hate on him. I think people are going to be like, oh, yeah, he'll do a suspension and come back, and there you have it. I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I sort of feel like it's reserved for the top, I don't know, one or two guys. Brady, okay, and Aaron Rodgers. That would blow up the internet. LeBron, that would blow up entire sports media. But
without a doubt, you're talking about deflating footballs got more negative feedback than actually performance-enhancing drugs.
Right, but drop it down a notch or two, okay?
Yeah.
Drop it down to say, let's say James Harden just won the MVP.
Yeah.
James Harden gets busted for PEDs. Do we go bananas? I'm not sure we do.
I don't think we do. You're absolutely right. I think if it's LeBron, without a doubt.
Talking to
Harden,
Rich,
probably not.
Talking to Rich Davis here. He's the host of ESPN Radio's newest show, Saturdays and Sundays, noon to 4 Eastern. Covino and Rich. It starts this weekend. I just met you.
By the way, we have you on every morning in our studio while we do our regular Sirius XM talk show every day. I see your mug right behind Covino every day on the TV. So I was going to say, amazing hair, Will. Amazing hair.
Oh, thank you. By the way, that's on Sirius XM channel 103. What are you talking about? On First Take?
First Take, we see you right there all the time. I'm like, there he is. Look at him.
Be honest,
chiming
Rich.
in, arguing with Stephen A.
Yeah, so be honest. You won't offend me, I promise. So, Rudy, will he offend me? Will any answer to this offend me?
No.
Okay.
Please take a shot at him, Rich. In the studio, we're all dying.
1 to 10, okay? 10 is like, I freaking love that guy. He's one of my favorites in sports media. 1's like, I can't stand that MFer. How did he get on the show? Where am I before today on your scale?
No, dude, you know what I like about you? I like that you're controversial and you stir it up. So not to kiss your butt, but you're on the high end of likability for me. I like the people that stir it up. If you don't stir it up, I feel like you become the Mike Trout of radio and TV if you're not you.
He landed it. Look at that airplane. He brought it all the way around the whole airport, buzzed the tower, and landed it. It's really good.
It could be boring. What do you? I mean, if you didn't have the controversial original take, then who would care at all? I'm Team Will Cain on this one.
All right, see, I think it would have gone over, Rudy. I was going to ask you about Oregon State pitcher too before this interview's over. They're like, you're just meeting this guy. Don't ask him about child molestation in the first interview. Don't ask him about Oregon State. So I'll do that on my own a little bit later. In the meantime, people need to tune in on Saturdays, noon to 4.
Thanks, man.
Covino and Rich. Yeah, man. Good to meet you. We'll have you again.
Appreciate that, man.
Okay. Take
See
care.
you soon.
They also have a daily show, SiriusXM channel 103. All right, coming up, let's go a little bit more into both of those issues. Why do we only care about certain sports and certain athletes when it comes to PEDs? Like, where is that line of we care? We care if it's LeBron. Do you care if it's Harden? That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is Will Cain.
You can't walk through life that if something you say or something you champion offends one person, then you must stop, because you will not be able to do anything. Julian Edelman has been or is expected to be suspended 4 games by the NFL for performance-enhancing drugs. He's appealed that punishment, and he's threatened to say he's going to take it to the criminal justice system outside of just the NFL. Now, there's 2 points of contention the New England Patriots wide receiver Julian Edelman has, or he will try to use for his appeal. Number 1, the test came back as an unspecified sample, unknown, can't be identified. However, the truth of the matter is, I don't think that one's going to save Julian Edelman. The NFL's substance policy says there are 71 specific anabolic, steroids, and other performance-enhancing drugs you cannot take. But then it expands and says any substance of similar chemical or similar biological effect can also be something you're suspended for. So in other words, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. We may not have a specific name for it. It may not check all the boxes, but if it looks under the microscope chemically, just like something, just like one of these 71, you're done. Or if it affects you in the same way as any of these 71, you're done. I don't think Julian Edelman is going to win on that count. But his second point of contention is that the NFL mishandled the samples. Its documentation and delivery of the urine didn't go through the proper chain of custody. And that's a big deal. In like the criminal justice system, that'll mess up an entire conviction or win on appeal if, I don't know, blood sample or urine sample or whatever it is. You have to document every single person that touched it, every refrigerator that it went through, so you can see that every step of the way it wasn't tampered with in any way, polluted in any way. So you know exactly that the way it came out, the way it was collected, is the same way it was tested. Now, Ryan Braun won his PED suspension on those same grounds. 50 games he was given. It was overturned on the chain of custody argument. So Julian Edelman has a case. He has the potential to win that. However, in retrospect, Ryan Braun then admitted he actually did take PEDs, that he lied, that he got the person that worked for the sampling agency or the testing mechanism fired for mishandling the chain of custody of the sample when actually he was taking PEDs. And then the truth of the matter is, here's the thing. Is Julian Edelman guilty? I don't know. But I don't think anybody really cares. I think when it comes to the NFL, 2 things. 1, we assume most players are taking PEDs. And number 2, the argument that it makes the game more violent and it makes it, something more dangerous for us to watch. The truth of the matter is, I'm not advocating this. I'm not applauding it. I'm just telling you the way it is. Fans like the violence. Fans like how rough and dangerous the NFL game is. They're not worried about PEDs making that more dangerous. And I just talked about this. I don't know what the line is. When do we care about PEDs? We care about it in baseball because baseball is a statistic and historical and traditionally driven sport. That's why we care about it in baseball. But we don't care about it in football. How many names would have to come up in the news as testing positive for PEDs for you to care in football? 1, Tom Brady. 2, Aaron Rodgers. Do you really? How about this? Go anywhere below those 2. Do you really think anybody cares? Just look at the NFL Network's top 100 players in the NFL. Antonio Brown is number 2. If he tested positive for PEDs, would anybody care? Would they discount a single accomplishment of his?
Probably not.
Any record? Any season statistics? No. Le'Veon Bell. Would anybody care? No. Zeke Elliott? No. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. Maybe any quarterback.
Well, how about, Peyton Manning's name has been floated around several times with that Al Jazeera report. I don't think we care that much about it right now, and he might be, one of the most famous guys in the history of the league.
If he was still active, I think we would.
You think so?
I think if he was still active, that would be a bigger story.
Well, it happened right as he was retiring, too, right?
Carry this over to basketball. How many names? You heard me ask Rich Covino, who's got a new show here on the weekends. You heard me ask this. LeBron, obviously, we'd care about. But just go down to 5. I said Rich Covino, Rich Davis. Hell, I'm giving you material for Friday. We've got
enough. If that's the reason you can stop, we've got enough.
You've got that. You've got...
You pretty much have that whole interview.
Mike Trout plays third base. What was the one? Oh, Stay Me 70. That one's going to win. Stay Me 70 is going to win. Seriously, though, would you care about anybody? How deep in the NBA would you go before you stop caring?
LeBron, yes.
KD, he'd probably be like...
He needs it.
He needs this.
Yeah, that same thing with Steph.
Oh, good for KD. Good for Steph. James Harden, Russ Westbrook. Would anybody care? Would anybody really go nuts over those guys? I don't think so. I don't know. There's some weird, T-graph you got to draw on which sport, how high up the food chain are you on the sport. And there's really only a few names, I think, in either football or basketball that we would end up caring about. Baseball, that's something different. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. More calls from our friends on whether or not Mike Trout was top of name. And I'm going to get into a very controversial story next on The Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.